So there's even more fun to be had.
Quite.
I ought to tell you, the winner gets the teddy bear. Well, the fluffy toy, shall I
Got
say.
to be joking. Oh, you've really raised the stakes
You will
now.
get the fluffy toy. We'll start with Dave.
OK.
OK. Good luck. Oh! Oh!
It's like being in the
come
third
on,
round.
for the pride of it.
Come on.
Just got a bit of dirt in my pocket.
Let's have a read.
Oh!
Did you see that?
I saw it. I was there.
I saw it.
I was there.
Oh, he'll be unbearable.
It's all right. He's
Get
already
this.
unbearable.
And he'll get the bear.
Oh, no, I was only joking before. I've got my own dirty mags in the dressing room.
Don't let him
Watch
get
out for the bloke.
Don't let him get
And here it is.
Oh, it's like the fairground.
Yeah.
It's like the
I never said you'd be that
Oh,
way.
it's like the
I never said. No.
Anything off the bottom, anything off the bottom.
Yes. If Lee was a nice man, he'd give that to you, Ronnie. But
That's true. I would.
congratulations, Lee.
Thank you very much.
Bullseye 25. So, OK, why did they ban rifle ranges inside pubs in Birmingham? Yes.
Was it common sense?
You'd think so, but no, that wasn't the reason.
Price of ammunition.
No. We're talking about the early 20th century, when it suddenly became very important to have soldiers who were good at firing rifles. Why was that?
Because of the war.
The Boer War, exactly. And so they started having rifle ranges in pubs.
Adds a new dimension to getting around in, doesn't it?
It does. And Birmingham was the very centre of the world's gun-making, BSA and other such rifle companies. And so all these pubs would have rifle ranges inside the pubs, sometimes literally inside. You'd fire over the heads of customers at targets. But they banned it. And I want to know the reason why they banned it.
Well, not just because there's an accidental death or something.
No. No, the answer is not what you might say today, which is health and safety. It was another more puritanical reason, in a way.
Either that picture's been mocked up or they are really casual, those days.
No, they still exist. There are still pubs with rifle ranges in them. In Devizes and Oswestry and places like that, they actually have pubs that still have rifle ranges. There's one there. You pull away the centre part of the bucket, and there's a tunnel, and you fire through it. There's a target at the end.
Somewhere in the world, there's a giant dog with stitches in his neck looking for that.
A very small neck.
Yeah.
Because people were gambling on it.
Yes, Dave Gorman, you're absolutely right. That's the weird thing about Britain then. They didn't care about the fact that live rounds were being fired over people's heads. It was the fact that it caused gambling.
Is that why they introduced the curtain over the scoreboard?
Yes, probably. To hide
Is that the British version of a speakeasy?
it.
Beautiful curtain it is, and immaculately measured.
But one Worcester pub, until quite recently, you would shoot from a bar across a passageway and into an outhouse. And some teams still shoot in the open bar. We've got Swindon, Devizes, Newport, Hinckley, Nuneaton, Worcestershire, still have pubs with rifle ranges in them. There you are. Isn't that quite interesting?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably more than we were hoping for. Otherwise it'd be called VI. It's only quite interesting.
They did try to ban darts at one point because of gambling as well, because it was deemed a game of chance. And I think it was in Leeds, and it went to the magistrate, and the landlord of a pub who wanted to keep his dartboard brought in the sort of local expert and made him play and demonstrate that it was actually a game of skill, because it was just seen, the idea was you were just sort of hitting the board like a fairground sort of game, and it was whatever you happened to hit was your score, and it was well done you were lucky. And then he came along and hit a few treble 20s when asked, and they sort of proved it was a game of skill.
Oh, that's very good. There are lots of pub games, of course. I'm sure you played pub games in your time. You may be familiar with some of them.
Too busy drinking.
Of course. But see if you can explain the rules of milking crummock, Hankin canst abide it, or laugh and lie down.
Laugh and lie down, that is a box full of Rohypnol.
No. No. That's
I think we covered those anyway.
Yeah,
Well, milking Cromwell, I would have thought that's a card game.
well, we know that Laugh and Lie Down and Hannekin Can't Abide It were card games.
Oh,
But
so I managed
actually-
to get the only one that isn't a card
Yes. Well, possibly, because the time has now passed. But, oh, just in time. Nobody knows is the answer. Nobody knows. Yes.
Nobody knows.
Extra points for Dave. The fact is, we only know these games exist because they're on lists of games that have been banned. So that there is statute that says it is illegal to play Milking Cromwell, Hannekin Can't Abide It, or Laugh and Lie Down. And all you can do as a games historian is look at it and try and work out. But there is some evidence that those were card games.
That's brilliant. I love the idea of a barman just going, "Hey, are you playing milking Cromwell?" No.
But there are some we do know.
Two blokes running down the pub with just one card going.
Obviously, there are dice and card games and dominoes, but there were games called Guile Bones, Noddy Board, Penny Prick, Hide Under Hat.
Hide under hat, that'd be a great game.
I like it because it's self-explanatory.
It is really.
You need
It is.
a massive hat or a small person in the other way.
Both, really.
Yeah.
But in 1938, a priest wrote to the Times complaining that there was a pub where they had on the billiard tables tortoise races with little toy jockeys on top. And
The jockeys that makes it lovely,
I
isn't
know,
it?
it's so sweet.
Should have used giant tortoises and real jockeys.
Well, they should, shouldn't they? If only they had. That was in Weymouth. Competitive smoking was very popular.
Oh, come on.
Well, see, you can, there you are.
It's a bit smug.
Yeah.
he's the champion.
It still exists. It still exists. You obviously now have to do it in an outside place or a smoking shelter. But who would
suppose
win
if
a
it-
smoking competition?
I guess the first person to finish the pipe.
No, the last person to finish the pipe. It's
Yes.
keeping the pipe alight for longest.
Oh,
It's like a
real
polo meat
skill.
competition.
It's how you pack the tobacco into the pipe and then how few puffs you take at it so you don't burn it down.
And you're telling
Some
me
people
this
keep it for
didn't...
hours.
And this didn't become a televised sport?
I know, it's shocking, isn't it? I know. Terribly exciting. But it still exists. Yeah, competitive smoking.
Wow.
So there are other games we can think of, and there was an ancestor of darts, you may be familiar with, a Belgian game called Oisé-Piqué in the French Belgian, or Struifvogelspel. And there it is, you use a duck, and the duck has the sharp beak. It's rather weird, it's tied on the end of a line. It's a
Where's
bit
the
peculiar. You
cord?
swing the bird round on a cord until the beak gets stuck in the board.
That'd be a good thing for a murder in Midsummer Murder.
Wouldn't it? Actually, that would be brilliant.
It's a good plot there.
Yeah.
Is that the dartboard?
Yeah, we can see the back of it. You swing that round, and wherever the duck's beak lands is.
She
is
doesn't
your
want to
score.
play. He's making her play.
Yeah, there was a betting game in pubs, which was rather distressing, called lark singing, which was very popular in Britain, but also particularly on the continent. And the one whose larks stopped singing last won all the money. And there was this terrible belief that if you blinded the lark, it would sing more. And there was a campaign to stop the blinding of larks, which was led by World War I blinded veterans.
And some larks.
Which is where they knew that being blind wasn't a lark, exactly.
Yeah.
But that was, unfortunately, a popular sport. Humanity has often been very cruel.
There's a lot of, I don't know why this reminds me of it, but there was an old variety act. Used to have a dancing duck on his piano. And he'd play the piano, an upright piano, and there'd be a duck that would just dance, and he'd just play a tune, and the duck would dance. And then they worked out he had a hot plate in the top of the piano, and it was triggered by him playing the thing. So when he started playing it, it heated up, and then the duck would have to sort of...
That is awful.
Yes, yeah. And there's a magician who's still working, I think, in Spain, who does a trick where there's a goldfish tank on top of a load of face-up cards.
Yeah.
And he forces a card on you, and then his goldfish selects your card by swimming to it. And he's basically sewn a little magnet into the goldfish, and he moves his knees under the table and directs it to...
Lord.
Yeah, I know. The entertainment world is cruel with animals.
It is, isn't it? Anyway, the fact is the rules of milking Cromwell are lost forever, but it doesn't matter because we're not allowed to play it anyway. The most popular entertainment venue in the world used to be the Coney Island amusement park in New York. What was its longest running attraction?
Is it an elephant?
No.
Sort of bearded woman, or... 'cause
No.
they had lots of that kind of thing.
Was it
down
a
there.
bearded elephant?
There was one particular woman who came to see this every week for all the 37 years that it was
Cliff
on the
Richard.
show. No, you don't have to know. It was not what you might call usual entertainment. It's very...
Cliff Richard.
No. I'm trying to framing this, to which Cliff Richard isn't the answer. This is a really peculiar, unlikely, no, that's not going to be anywhere. This is not what you'd associate with entertainment. No, that's not.
Barry Manilow.
What about it's something you go and see on your summer holiday? No, that doesn't work either.
I'm just going to have to tell you, it was children in incubators. The infant incubator with living infants. Premature children were put in incubators, there they were, and the public would come and see them. They'd pay a quarter, 25 cents.
Was there a grabbing hand?
Yeah. You are an evil man.
It's an Angelina Jolie pick and mix.
It does seem really weird to us, but the fact is it was a recent invention. It was invented in 1880, and no hospitals had them in America. It was a French invention, and the French inventor went round trying to persuade people they were a good idea. And this park thought, at Coney Island, what a great thing to do. We'll get all the premature babies that are born in New York, we'll send them to the incubator, put them in the incubator, people can come and look at them and watch them thrive. And indeed they did thrive.
Literally just warm air?
Yeah, it's a ventilated, sealed-off area.
So
This must have been laid open for abuse by pushy stage school mothers who were desperate to get their kids into... Get into the incubator, Lorelei! Go on, get into the incubator. But Mom, I'm 11, so squidge up a little. And if someone comes to look at you, do your shuffle 3-step.
If someone was 7 months and their waters broke, were they then being driven to the fun fair instead of the hospital to be near?
Yes, because the hospital didn't have any incubators.
Yeah.
It was only when, in 1940, that the New York City Hospital invested in incubators that they kind of went out of business as an attraction. It seems utterly weird to us, but it was the longest-running attraction at Coney Island. Anyway, staying with our infancy theme, here's a parenting poser. Eleanor Roosevelt considered herself a very modern mother. Where did she keep her baby?
Oh, in a drawer, probably.
It's almost as weird. It was a fad in the 1930s.
Was it permanently attached to her in one of those things, what they called papoose things?
No, that would be fairly normal. We would consider this weird now. In New York, space is at a premium. It's obviously a limited amount of space in Manhattan, hence the skyscrapers and so on. And where do you put your baby? Well, hang it out the window in a cage. The baby cage. It caught on for a while.
Was this the question that Michael Jackson was trying to answer?
He probably... Yes, it is a bit disturbing, the baby cage. But there were 12 of them in Poplar in London. They died out during the Blitz, because obviously they're not suitable for the Blitz. Eleanor Roosevelt got severely criticised for it. She was very upset. She recalled, it was rather a shock to me, for I thought I was being a very modern mother. But you can get extra points if you can tell me Eleanor Roosevelt's maiden name. Before she married FDR, she was Eleanor what?
Rigby.
Don't say it at the same time. No, she wasn't.
Roosevelt.
Yes! Well done. Oh, she was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Very good.
She was the niece of President Teddy Roosevelt, who was a fifth cousin of the man she married, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So there's no incest involved. Fifth cousin is a long way away. It's just an amazing coincidence. So
do you think she actually changed her name? No, seriously, do you think she actually went and said, right, I'm now officially changing my name? Because you're not officially then got the same name. You've got the same name, but it's not the same as registering it as a changed name. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? The reason I ask, do you know what I mean? Because I'm not sure I do.
No, I'm going to say...
Do you see what I mean?
I sort of know what you mean. That she missed out... She missed out on the excitement. Nobody knows what you mean. She missed out on the excitement of saying, I'm not going to try out my new name. Maybe she might have written her signature in a different way. Now, describe the miraculous secret machinery that the Chamberlain family used for delivering babies for 100 years.
Was it the... what's that thing called that you suck a baby out with?
What?
The Ventouse. Did they invent the
that was
Ventouse?
after. That was after. So it must be...
this
forceps.
Yes.
Forceps.
Yes, they invented the forceps. And they realised how brilliant they were. But they were terrified. This was in the 17th, 18th century, roundabout, for 100 years. There was no patenting laws, so anybody could have copied it. And so what they would do is they would go into a house with this huge box covered in a cloth. And so we've got our secret device here. They would go up, they would blindfold the mother.
She's not going, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Blindfold the mother.
Coming!
No one else was allowed in the room. And then they'd play all these sound effects to make it seem as if it was an extraordinary piece of machinery. Yeah. And then they would get out. Here's an early... they're pretty disturbing, but there they are. I'm sure that's forceps. There they are. But for literally 100 years, they kept their secret by disguising this simple device.
Then they'd get them out and smirk at a barbecue, just turning things like Nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody knows.
Now, epidurals. Do you know when the epidural was first devised?
I would say
1960.
He died in 1949. He was a man called August Beer. And he first had this idea that if you put painkiller into the spine itself, then anything below the pain signals wouldn't get there. So he tried on an assistant. He injected his assistant's lower spine with cocaine, which is a topical anaesthetic.
She fell over and said it worked.
It was a he. It was a he.
They played Laugh and Lie Down?
Yeah. He then...
Could have been worse. They could have then played Milk and Craddock.
Yes. Well, he almost did. He made sure the area was numb by pulling the man's pubic hair, yanking his testicles.
And he said, Anakin can't abide it!
He hit him in the legs with a hammer and singed his thighs with a cigar. And sure enough, the assistant felt no pain. So that is how the epidural came
He never
to
walked
be.
again, but he...
somewhat bruised. The first woman in history to have a baby under an anaesthetic, which was chloroform. She was so thrilled by the painlessness of the experience, she named her baby...
Not chloroform.
Not chloroform, no, anaesthesia.
It's quite a nice name. It's like semolina and tapioca.
Yeah.
It does sound like the most boring dinner party guest ever. Anaesthesia's coming. Oh. Not again.
There are stories about this. It's hard to know quite how true it is. There were biblical objections to the idea of chloroform being administered to women in childbirth. Do you know why?
Because pain is good for them.
Well, there's a very specific reference in the Bible. It's right at the beginning. Do you remember Eve gets Adam into a bit of trouble by making him eat the fruit? And
yes.
God says, no, you ate the fruit of the tree whereof I spake, thou shouldst not eat. And to the woman, he says...
You will marry Tom Cruise.
No. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children.
Yes.
So it's as if God cursed women to have pain. So some ultra-religious people felt that it was basically God's curse and they should scream in agony while giving birth. But then Queen Victoria had one of her children, Prince Leopold, was born when she had chloroform, and then the habit caught on, and then the epidural and various other such things.
I didn't know Victoria had a Prince Leopold.
Yes, she did, yes, I know. She had 9 children, I think.
They were all named after pubs.
Ding, yeah. Very nice. Excellent. Here's another intimate little secret for you. How can you tell a French baby from a German baby? Yes, Veronica.
A German baby will have wrapped itself in a towel before the midwife has even had a chance to fetch it.
It's not often you can do the same joke twice in one show, but it's the German baby on the far right.
Is there a difference in cry?
Yes.
They have an accent.
Yes.
It's like,
No.
Yes. It's not an accent exactly, it's a melodic cadence. In the womb, the baby is hearing its mother tongue, and the different languages have different stresses and cadences and, as it were, melodies, and you can actually do tests in which someone will say, that's a German baby, that's a French baby, just by its gurgle. In the womb, it's heard the language. And not only that, they actually like their mother tongue. You show them videos, and there's someone speaking in a language that isn't the language their mother and father speak, and someone else speaking in their own mother tongue, and they will stare at the ones in their mother tongue. Even, it's not their parents, it's someone else. They actually are drawn to it, so they pick up on the rhythms very early on.
Glaswegian baby says, get me out of that bloody cage!
That's great. But it is fascinating that early on, just in the womb, they've picked up on the rise and fall, the melodic cadences of their mother tongue. I think that's rather sweet.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think it's beautiful too. So there you are, yes. How long do the best hugs last?
20 seconds.
That's a very long hug. I would start getting embarrassed and restless if someone hugged me for 20 seconds, but...
Do you want to test that?
Yeah.
Do you want to test that?
Yeah, no, please. Oh, hello. Here we go.
That was lovely. Yep. I'm on the clock. I'm on the clock. Yep, I'm on the clock. That was... Oh, God, this is too long. It is really bad. It is really bad. This is too long. It is really bad. Oh, we're unembarrassed
Did
now.
you say I'm on the clock?
On the clock, yeah.
And lovely. That's got to be at least 20 seconds, and that was embarrassing.
That was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, no...
See if you can beat it.
Oh,
That's lovely, lovely. I've been waiting years to do this.
Well, if you like jogging, I'm playing tiddlywinks and sod the lot of you.
right. That was lovely. That was unusual. I wasn't expecting that response, but it was charming. You're both wearing very nice aftershave, by the way.
Hang on, do you want your watch back?
Would you like my aftershave?
I certainly did.
Gorgeous aftershave. Now, there have been tests. It seems weird.
4 or 5 seconds.
Well, 3 seems to be the answer.
3 is the perfect time, you mean? Or...
It seems to be that there is a kind of inbuilt human moment, which is 3 seconds. If it's less than 3 seconds, it really is a bit kind of... Well, that wasn't really a proper hug. If it's 2... 1, 2, 3, that's nice. It's just actually a rhythm that seems to be built in to the human race. This 3-second period is known as a moment, and it happens in a lot of the things we do. Don't say it.
I just can't wait for my great aunt to come round and give me a hug. It's all very nice, and I'll go, it's 4 seconds, you bitch. Next time you'll keep it tight or you don't come in.
I think what spoils a hug is when the other person goes, and break.
Yes. Well, have you heard of the 5-second rule?
Food.
Yes, what is it?
This is where if you drop food on the floor, it's OK to eat it if you pick it up within 5 seconds.
Right, and do you believe that?
No, it's nonsense, obviously.
Yes, it is, of course, completely nonsense. It could be OK after 5 minutes. It just depends on whether the floor is contaminated.
Yeah.
And, of course, human beings tend to, if you drop chocolate or a biscuit, people will say pick it up, eat it easily. But if it's broccoli or cabbage or something, they go, oh. That, with a big splat like that, though, you just think, no, I probably won't worry. But do you eat food off the floor? I mean, if you drop food...
As a rule, I do.
No, not...
Is this what you do at speed dating? You eat food off the floor. Move on. You eat food off the floor. Move on. You've got a yellow hanky. Perfect.
It was a presumption. It wasn't you. It was like you
eat food off the floor.
Yeah.
Slightly not you.
She's quite disgusting.
That's not a yellow hanky, it's a white hanky. I've just cleaned that up. Thank you very much.
Once you've got a baby, food on the floor
It's
really
the least
is
of your
fair
worries.
game.
Well,
If
exactly.
you didn't eat food off the floor, you're wasting about 90 quid a week.
That's it. Now, buzz when you know what's so damn interesting about this photograph. Yes.
You said damn interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, what is it that's interesting?
Yes, I've got it, yes.
It's a dam,
It's
yeah.
got the goats walking across.
There are
it.
goats walking
Yeah.
on it.
There's a little one there.
Where?
There.
There. They scale...
Oh,
Why?
yes.
Now, why would they do
Literally,
that?
That is pretty impressive.
That is
Yeah.
pretty
You've got to admit,
impressive.
do you know what kind of goat that is?
An ibex.
It's an ibex. It's an alpine ibex. An extraordinary thing. I mean, this is a south-facing dam in Italy, the Cingino Dam, and to get a salt lick, they walk on what is an almost sheer rock surface. Isn't it amazing, though?
Have their little have their hoofs sort of adapted?
Well, you can see there's a better thing there. Yes, I mean, they are...
Are they clothed?
Ibexes, are, like all goats, are incredibly sure-footed. And they're alpine, and they can scramble up rock faces and things like that. But it's astonishing, isn't
Do
it?
they fall off sometimes?
I hope not. I doubt it. I mean, wow.
There's a kebab stand at the bottom.
That's terrible and believable at the same time.
occasionally one does fall off.
Do you know what the Pyrenean ibex... This is the Alpine ibex. This is in northern Italy. But do you know what the Pyrenean ibex did in the noughties, in the decade between 2000 and 2010? There's a Pyrenean ibex.
No, fell off something, got up to the top, something couldn't get down.
Something fell on it, or on her, in fact. There was a violent storm on January the 6th, 2000, in northern Spain. Celia. She was the last ever Pyrenean ibex. And the branch crushed her skull and she died. And the species was declared extinct. But in 2009, 9 years later, she made a comeback and she became the first cloned animal that had been extinct from a piece of her skin was preserved in liquid nitrogen, and a little kid was born but lasted only 7 minutes and died. But it is the way forward with extinct species. There are a lot of kind of frozen arks with highly endangered species whose DNA is being kept in the hope that they will be resurrected one day. And there is an example for 7 minutes. Isn't that weird? And talking about things that only show up if you look at them very closely, it's time for general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, please. Where was Louise Brown conceived? Yes.
In a test tube. Why did it coming out my mouth? Like, what, you fool?
Louise Brown was indeed the world's first in vitro fertilised baby.
She wasn't conceived.
But it wasn't a test tube, it was a petri dish.
So she's a fraud. She's been telling everybody she's the first
She never
test tube
claimed to
baby.
be.
She's the first petri dish baby.
The news claimed she was the first test tube baby. There's another Louise Brown, who's 91 years old and lives in the Stewartry of Dumfries and Galloway, who has a record, we think, in the United Kingdom, which is rather extraordinary. There's no way you could possibly guess it.
It's got to be the oldest something or other.
Well, she...
Oh, is it too late for this?
No, we definitely know.
We could ask her.
We could ask her. She's still alive.
Maybe she doesn't know.
We think she's the most prolific library book borrower in the country. She has read...
That's too much of a leap from
it is.
fertilisation.
It just happens to be the same name. She's read just under 25,000 books.
Well, she says that. She's borrowed them.
No, but that... 12 a week. 12 a week, and she's never once had a late fine.
That probably proves that she doesn't read them, the very fact she gets them back on time.
I think it's rather charming. They're mostly Mills and Boon romances, war stories and historical dramas. But that's it, 12
so
books.
Barbara Cartland was writing that many?
Yes, exactly. Just
for Louise to keep reading.
Yeah. I was going to say if Louise is watching, but she isn't. She's reading a book. But if Louise is watching, we salute her in the world of dying libraries. Where did marsupials come from? Yes.
Marsupial.
It could easily have been the right answer.
Well, they only live in Australia.
Not true.
You knew that.
We'll let you off there. They don't only live in Australia. In fact, there are marsupials in the Americas.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are they called?
Oh,
they're really
yes.
cute. We'll show you a
They're
photograph
little.
and see if you know them. They're tiny. They're the mammals that have the tiniest
echidna
babies.
Type.
That's not the echidna, no.
Oh, are they finger bobs?
But they look like the clangers.
They really, really do look like finger bobs.
They do look, they are opossums.
I didn't know that. I didn't realise this. I thought that they were born in the pouch. I didn't realise that they're born and then they have to crawl up and get in the pouch.
And in the case of the opossum, you could get 20 baby opossums on a teaspoon. They are absolutely minuscule. And the mummy licks her fur to make a line from where they're born, and they crawl up into the pouch, because the babies then develop further in the pouch. But they first began...
Well, that's bizarre, because I was under the impression, I'm wrong as ever, but I was under the impression that marsupials evolved separately on Australia, because Australia was, like Madagascar, separate from...
No, but like Madagascar and like New Zealand and many others, they all originally belonged to a supercontinent, which was known as...
Australasia?
No, it was known as...
Essex.
Someone in the audience will know. Gondwanaland. It's a supercontinent that broke off and is now South America, Africa, and indeed Australasia. We're all part of this supercontinent. And
so the scientists say.
So they say. But in fact, the first marsupials came from the part that is now South America, in fact, that had been Gondwanaland. But they crossed through Antarctica while it was still one continent and into Australia. So there you are. That's your marsupials. Actually originated in an area which is now part of South America. Which brings me to the matter of the scores. and they make fascinating reading. In first place by quite a long way, with plus 10 points, it's Dave Gorman. I'm speaking almost now like a proud father. With a magnificent 6 points, in second place, Alan Davis. And only just behind with plus 5, Lee Mack. But with a very creditable minus 7, Ronnie Ancona.